think I know almost everyone here, but I'm Suzanne Grossman. I direct career services at the Marxe School. I'm with Samantha Bruno, who's our interim assistant director for career services. And we are very happy to be joined by 3 current Excelsior Fellows and 2 recent Excelsior Fellows. We're going to keep this pretty informal. We're going to hear from each of them about their experience. And we're going to, what else? We're going to talk just briefly about the application process, and we will see what questions you have. And we'll wrap up pretty close to 2. And a few people have to leave early or like exactly at 2, so just be mindful of that. But I'm pretty sure most of the fellows are available to answer questions after. So let me just call on each of them to say their names, when they graduated from Baruch, and where their current placement is. And I'll probably do that starting with the current fellows, just who's on my screen first, which is Emerson.
Sure. My name is Emerson. I graduated from the Marxe School in May 2021, and I got selected for the Excelsior Fellow around June, and the whole process took around 3 months to get placed. And I'm currently working for the Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation.
Great. Tanisha.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tanisha Parfait. I graduated in May 2021, so the same year with Emerson and Kwame. My degree was in Master's in Public Health, well, Public Administration, just very general. And currently I'm at the New York State Developmental Disabilities Planning Council. So that agency in particularly is one of 50 developmental disabilities councils across the state. And so that's where we just address the needs of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities through a variety of advocacy programs and projects, systems change, and capacity building efforts. It's nice to meet everybody.
Great. Kwame?
Hi, my name is Kwame Dijano. Just like Emerson and Tanisha, I graduated May of last year. I got selected for the Excelsior Fellowship last year in May. The process was a little bit lengthy. We didn't start till September. So I was placed at the Office of People with Developmental Disability. I work with the housing unit to try to help people with developmental disability secure safe and affordable housing. I've been here for the past for the past 4 months, and so far my experience has been good. Everybody that I've been working with has been very supportive. They've made sure that we have all the resources that we needed to start the fellowship service. And my supervisors and my coworkers have always been a very great source of resource to kind of reach out to whenever I needed anything. So.
Great. Robert.
Hi there, I'm Robert Biederman. I graduated in 2018 and served as a fellow from, I believe, fall 2018 to 2020. I was working for NYSERDA, the New York State Research Energy Development Authority. And upon completion of my fellowship, I was able to get hired with Empire State Development. And that's where I am now, working in their life sciences division.
Great. Ben.
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin Wang. I graduated the MPA program at Baruch back in 2019 with a specialization in sustainability. And I entered the fellowship program in 2019, working for the Department of Public Service doing energy policy. Post-fellowship, I'm currently at the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, continuing a lot of the same work that I was doing at DPS in this new role, energy policy, and specifically large-scale renewable energy projects.
Great, thank you. So let's go back. We'll just hear, from each person a little bit more something you want to share about the fellowship, either how it's going, the move to Albany, because I think everyone here is in Albany or was in Albany. The professional development, the program, there's any number of areas you could touch upon. I'll let you start, Emerson.
Sure. For me, my experience has been like the moving part. It was a little stressful, especially during like the transition from New York City to Albany, and in part from just like going through the process. You have to go through a background check. You have to, and because this fellowship, it's designed to be like it's in a policy making role. Like there's like a lot of background checks that go on, and then at the same time you have to coordinate with like moving from New York City to Albany. So that whole process can be a little stressful, but I think I navigated it okay, and now I'm kind of settling down here, and I feel much more comfortable, and it feels like it worked out for me.
Do you want to say anything about your placement or the fellowship itself?
Sure. The fellowship, it's a good opportunity to see how the state works, and like how and for me, I had also experience in the city government, so I can see definitely I can compare them too, and I can see like there's differences between city and state, and how the state works in a much more like macro level, especially like working for parks. I have a lot of projects now that I am involved in, and I'm working in like statewide initiatives, which can be a helpful experience going forward, because as like the fellowship, it's a 2-year assignment, and getting that experience is important to progress in my career.
Great, good. Tanisha.
Yeah, to echo what Emerson said, the process is pretty lengthy once you do get accepted, obviously with background checks, just to ensure that everything's squared away okay. So definitely like take your time on that. Like they're not ignoring you, they're not trying to move on with anyone else. They're definitely going to keep you in the loop in regards to what documents are needed to kind of like to verify that everything's okay. And so my experience so far, I'm gonna go back to moving. I used to live out in SUNY Albany, attend SUNY Albany, and then I moved out here probably 2013, and then I went back to New York City at 2015. So I was like in Albany for a while, and so I was familiar with the area, but not so much for where I am right now. So definitely moving, if you're not familiar with the Albany area, it will take some time in regards to finding like obviously a nice apartment, depending on what you can afford. But with the fellowship, I will add is that you don't get paid like right away. There's like a delay. There's like a 2-week or 4-week delay for your first paycheck. So hopefully you're able to already have savings, to pay for your deposit, to pay for your first month rent, to move out, and to make sure that you can eat and to go to work, right, for the first month and a half, because you don't get your paycheck until like, I think a 2 or 4 week lag, with the state, which is really weird. They don't really explain why there's a lag. They just say, obviously, that's what it is. And so that's something to really take a note on, because people may not be in a financial position to do that, and so that's something to really consider. But don't let that like sway you, because I'm sure you guys can probably work something out if you you make other contacts. But when looking for an apartment, I did definitely utilize like apartments.com and looked at Albany, and I just looked at the reviews and I called, and fortunately for me, thank God that I was able, the first apartment that I found, I was able to move in, and so my commute to where I'm at right now with the DDPC is only like a 15-minute walk. I could take the bus if I want to. That's probably like a 5-minute, but I only probably will use that if it's the winter, like snowing, and it's like I really don't want to walk, but save your money if you can, walk 15 minutes back. And so that's definitely something that has been very easy for me. My experience with the agency itself has been like mind-blowing, in the sense of like I have my hands in like everything. I have my background predominantly in non-for-profit, and so I'm just like, oh my gosh, like when I was applying for the Excelsior Fellow, I'm just like, oh my gosh, so this kind of gets me. Like I never been in the state. I had an internship for like 3 months for the city, but I'm not just sure will this be enough. So like don't feel like you're discounted or excluded from this opportunity, because at the end of the day, like just utilizing the skills and the stuff that you've learned, whether you had experience or not in any job. And I feel like this is definitely gives you kind of like your feet wet within like working for the state. And so similar to what Kwame said earlier, like a lot of support from the staff in regards to like, hey, Tanisha, what do you want to do? What do you want to get exposed to? You know, like technically I'm an Excelsior Fellow, but like I'm a research specialist here at DDPC. So like any projects, anything that they need help on, they definitely keep me in the loop. So right now, when I first started, they were pretty knee deep in their state plan. And so I was really fortunate enough to kind of like create a comprehensive list for future prospective projects for their next state plans and future plans. So that's definitely a great resource that I did. And I'm currently working on 2 grants right now in regards to dual diagnosis and financial literacy. So those are areas that were really interesting that I'm doing right now. And then I guess I'll add with the professional development, like you mentioned that, Suzanne, we have one every month. So that's something that all the Excelsior Fellows, they get together and we kind of like navigate through this journey together in a sense. Like it's like, okay, well, how does the state work? You know, the different branches, you know, what are your opportunities for work and all, just getting very familiar. It's kind of like New York State 101 for the first 3 workshops for us. And then the last workshop for us was definitely figuring out kind of like, what do you want to do next? You know, start the conversation early so you kind of like, you know, the pathways that you can do. If you don't want to stay in your agency, you know, because at the end of the day, I know I don't want to stay here in particular, not that I don't like the work, but my mind is really set on Office of Mental Health, you know, and so definitely working on the programmatic side of things. And the last thing I'll probably add, did I want to add anything else? Nope, nothing else. Take it away.
All right, great. Kwame, go ahead.
Hi, I guess my fellows have already mentioned a lot of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Like as they mentioned earlier, the process is very long, and for somebody like me who's like a little bit anxious, is like it was very stressful because sometimes you would send in documents that they require of you and it would take them like days to get back to you. It was a lot of back and forth in between them. And then having to move to Albany was also very stressful because apparently we were moving to in the middle of the pandemic. So it was hard to find something that is really affordable. And when you do finally move, I mean, I was lucky to move within 10-15 minute walk of my of where I'm working right now. But I just found out that you might need a car if you don't have a car, because it gets really cold out here. It's very cold, especially it was cold this week. The bus system is not the same as the one in New York City. I mean, I have yet to learn about any train here, but if you choose to take the bus, that's on you, because it's cold. You're gonna have to wait for like sometimes 20 over 30 minutes for the bus to come. And so if you're moving, as Kanisha said, budget for a car if you can. You don't get paid for the first 4 weeks. Your check comes in late. I think it was 4 weeks if I'm not mistaken. And also
Two for me.
It was what?
2 weeks for me.
It was 2 weeks. Like I didn't get my first check till like after the first 4 weeks. So right now we are currently working on a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. When I first started, I had to go through the process of my supervisor figuring out like where to put you, because you just started, your new employee. So they have to figure out like where you fit in. So what I started doing was that they gave me like a lot of documents. It was like a lot of readings to do, just like kind of like help you catch up on what they're doing. They've been working on this ADM for a while before I got here, so I got to get involved in that as well. So it's kind of like a guidance document for like what's going on out there, how regional offices and agencies out in the field are supposed to implement the programs that we're working on. So what they got me doing was go through emails and try to use the ADM to kind of like figure out like a solution for like issues that they're having out in the field. They also make sure that you're pretty much involved in like mostly every meeting that they're having, which is very good, because Usually you sit through a lot of those meetings and you're just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? But you get this opportunity to kind of like ask questions after, and if you do your readings, it kind of clicks. And then one thing that I really like about most of the meetings out here is that it's recorded, and it is recorded and it's shared. So if there's something that they mentioned that you really didn't get, you have the opportunity to kind of like go back and watch it and catch up. And then something might not make sense today, but maybe next time when they're talking about it, it'll click, oh, this is what they were talking about. This is what they meant when they say this. So that's like, that's kind of like the learning process here. I did mention the ADM. It still hasn't gone out. That's one thing that I've learned since I started here too, because it was supposed to go out before I even started. So I'm starting to learn that it takes a long time to get things done when it comes to like state, because I've had the opportunity to like kind of like draft some documents, and it's still being reviewed. It's like you submit it to your supervisor and they have to send it to the person above them. It has to go through counselors. They have to review the document. And sometimes you write something and they send it back to you. It's like, this is not what I submitted. It's like, it's a whole complete document that you have to redo over again. And I've heard story about how people work on like projects that are just end up going nowhere. They're just dead. Right? It's like they don't go anywhere. It's like you work hard on this thing and it doesn't even get the chance to go out. So my point is the ADM, we're still working on the ADM. Hopefully it goes out soon. It was supposed to go out in January, but it didn't go out. That's because we got a new commissioner. She was also an Excelsior fellow, like all of us. I got to meet her, and it was a great experience and it was pretty encouraging to find out that she was just like she started out just like all of us here, and it was good to meet her. As I mentioned earlier, everybody here has been very supportive so far. Like, there's nothing that. Don't be shy. If you ever get hired, don't be shy. Like, everybody's very supportive. Go out to anybody that's available and ask questions. If they have the answers, they will let you know. If they don't, they will like refer you to like whoever they think is available to help you. So I think, as Emerson mentioned earlier, this is a very good opportunity for you to get a foot in the door. It's an opportunity to learn about how the state government works, how to work on policies, how people work on like documents and policies that are affecting people out there, like the whole process. So so far my experience has been very good. It's been great.
Thank you. Ben, did you want to go next?
Yes, hi. Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Benjamin Wang. I'm currently working at the Office of Renewable Energy Siting. For me, my perspective on the fellowship is, well, first, let me step back a little bit. For me, I think people like us who pursue MPAs are people who want to make a difference after they graduate, right? That was certainly the case for me. That was certainly the case why I went to Baruch to pursue my MPA, despite my experience in the business and corporate sector. So I thought that this fellowship was a great way to enter public service, public policy in a way that I didn't understand before working in the business sector, right? And that definitely has been the case. I've definitely learned a tremendous amount about how our state government works. There's still a lot to learn, a lot to be learned, because the state is huge and massive. But if you do not understand the way state government works, as I did not, this is definitely a great way to get your feet in the door and understand that perspective. Also, in my opinion, working for the state, especially if you are pursuing an MPA and if your desire is to make a difference, working for the state and through this program is a very excellent way to do that, because you're able to work on policy initiatives, work in projects and areas that actually have a tremendous impact for the people of New York State and also for the state's objectives, right? In my case, is renewable energy. I would say that I was very, very lucky to get placed into the fellowship in the area that I wanted to do, which was energy policy, and also have an excellent boss who was a mentor for me, who was able to open doors and introduce me to people and get me involved on projects that were very interesting and very relevant to what the goals of New York State energy policy was. So I would say from that perspective, the fellowship was very beneficial for me. And then after the fellowship, I was able to continue that work into energy policy, which is what I'm currently doing now. And basically what I'm currently doing now was an extension of the work that I was doing in the fellowship. It's a direct extension. I am from New York City, as most of us here on the phone are, and I would have to say that moving to Albany was a transition. It did take some time for me to adjust. I, basically born and raised in New York City my whole life, so I've never been in Albany before. So coming up here was a transition, and that is something that if you're going to take on this fellowship, is something that you're going to have to get used to, get adjusted to. I do recommend that you come up and visit Albany, and have a little, stay here over the weekend or a couple of days or something, just to get yourself acclimated, so that you are aware of what it's like living here in Albany, right? It's definitely not New York City, and to be perfectly honest, some people like that, right? There are a lot of people who are not fans of living in New York City, and I understand that. And coming to Albany is a really nice change and a breath of fresh air for them. But I would say that for me, it did take some adjustment. So I would recommend that you guys do get used to Albany or experience Albany a little bit too. It is a nice city. It is a nice town, and there are a lot of nice things here around Albany, but it's not New York City. So get used to that. But in terms of working in the fellowship, really gave me a great experience or a toe into how New York State policy works, and what our work affects, the 20 million people, the 20 million residents or citizens of New York State, which was very fulfilling for me.
Thanks, Tim. I just have a quick follow-up. When did you get your new job? And some people in my experience end the fellowship early because another opportunity comes along. When did you make that choice?
Yeah, so I started the fellowship in September of 2019, and it was supposed to run until September of 2021. I actually exited the fellowship early. I exited in February of 2020 because of this new opportunity that I was presented with this new office, because it was basically a direct connection, a direct extension of the work that I was doing at the Department of Public Service. So I was offered this position, and considering all that was happening in 2020 around COVID and the hiring freeze, I took this offer right away because of the uncertainty that was, of course, happening during that time, and of course of the work that I was already doing at the Department of Public Service. This would be a direct extension or continuation of that work. So it just made sense. It just made a lot of sense.
Got it. Thanks. Robert?
Hi there. Yeah, so again, I'm Robert Biederman. This fellowship honestly was perfect for me. I had a very non-traditional pathway just to Baruch in general. My background was as an actor, and doing a lot of support jobs to get by as an actor. And when I decided I was done pursuing that, I didn't really have much of a resume to go forward into the real world and start a career. And I found this MPA program, and I really loved the classes, and I loved what I was learning, but I had this resume that didn't really match the skill set that I was getting at Baruch. And when I heard of this fellowship, I said, this is the perfect opportunity to kind of bridge my way into that professional world. And you don't just get a 2-year job, you really do get a 2-year learning experience. You get a mentor, You get to network with, 50, 60 other fellows. Just like at Baruch, you have your network that you're forming there. So this whole other network, on top of that. So it was really just a great opportunity for me, not only to build a resume, to learn how to be a project manager, which is what I do now, to make amazing contacts, to do good work for the people in New York. It was really everything I could have asked for. We kind of ran into a situation with COVID there as my fellowship was ending. My mentor is actually with the Department of Labor, and we were sitting down, I think February of 2020, and we were kind of discussing, what are my options and getting my resume together. And he goes, "Oh, it's a good market. It's looking great for you." And then COVID, like 3 weeks later, shuts everything down. So fortunately, and on top of that, for family reasons, I was moving back downstate, and that limited some opportunities with New York State because most jobs are in Albany. So I was able to luck out and secure this job at Empire State Development. Like Ben, I have a strong interest in environmental work and preventing climate change and clean energy, and I would have loved to continue that, but due to COVID, I kind of just took the first opportunity that came my way at the time. I do want to stress, so I am one of those like lifetime New Yorkers who I guess was ready for a change, and so I loved Albany. I really loved living there. Yes, it's obviously nothing is New York, but I really appreciated all the open space, all the nature, all the hiking. You're 3 hours from New York, you're 3 hours from Boston, you're 3 hours from Montreal. There are good restaurants there, I promise you. You can find like good Chinese food, good Indian food. You won't have like 50 restaurants to choose from. There'll be like 3, but they're good. They're even, we even found like markets, that had like ethnic foods from everywhere. So like, I don't know, I think people are given this impression of Albany that it's like you're moving to like Omaha or someplace like in the Great Plains and the food's all bland, and it's like, no, there's really good stuff there. And I don't regret living there at all. It was a great experience for me. So I would say if you're interested in this program and like Albany is your concern, like I'd say just go for it. You could be pleasantly surprised.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I want to talk briefly about the application process, but before that, I want to see, does anyone have questions about the actual, like setting aside the application process, anything about the actual fellowship or Albany before we move on? And we can return to any topic after the application part, but any questions? I know there were some things in the chat, but I think they were responded to.
Hi,
Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. Thank you everyone for this session, for your time. How long do they give you before they actually tell you you've been accepted into this and before you have to pack up and leave? I'm currently employed in the DOE, and so I just can't pick up and leave. I have to leave my notice, and I'm married, and so my partner has to figure out her life with the job. So how long do you have between the actual, hey, you got this and you need to report to work?
I can answer part of the question, and I think last year's class was different because the budget wasn't approved until very late. This year's class is a bit more normal. And you will, so Baruch has 4 spots this year. And that is one difference. You were asking the question about like, how is this different from a regular job? I mean, I think the thing is like, this is an internal process. This is the only fellowship I know of like this. There are other, you're not competing against the whole pool. If anything, you're competing against your fellow classmates and recent grads at the Marxe School in the MPA and MIA program. And we do an internal process, and then we have to send our nominees by March 1st. Now, most of the nominees are taken. I have had someone who didn't interview. So then you have to interview with the fellowship folks. That's Kara Pangburn, who leads the info sessions. There's still 2 more of those left, which you could attend. And then she will tell you if you're a finalist, but she may or may not, she likes to tell people by around May, late May or so, where you were placed. And then you have like a very brief period of time to accept or decline. Most people accept. But yeah, so there's a little bit of like, you're accepted into the program, but you don't know where you're placed. And then you, and I think the current fellows could say, when did you actually start working? Like, when did they want you to report in your?
It's right around Labor Day, I believe.
Yeah. So September 1st, I believe I came in, that first week of September.
Yep, September, we started.
September 2nd.
September 2nd.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was our
2nd.
first date where we had to be in the office.
They
Yeah,
try
and
to have
depending
you
on-
start on a Thursday, always because of
Yeah.
the pay period is set up.
Yeah, and depending on your agency too, I'm sure you can work out telecommuting for your first week. I know that was an option for me, so you don't have to physically be in the office, depending on, I'm not too sure the next year around, but if you're unable to like come in New York, in that Albany office, I'm sure you can communicate with your supervisor and say maybe a week or two. They're very flexible and just keeping in contact with them for sure.
Yeah, so then you pretty much have like all summer, like they're doing background checks, but it's like, contingent on background checks. And then you keep planning. I know Crystal's messaging me some questions. I'm just going to answer for everybody. We do need people to graduate by May. If you still have a class over the summer, unfortunately, it's become clear over the years of doing this that we can't accept people who haven't finished by May. And if you apply, if you're finishing in the summer, you can apply next cycle, which would be the same as it is this year, so September. So you'd start the fall of the following year. So just something in terms of being clear about that. Any other questions about the program before I talk briefly about the application? And I think we can have the fellows weigh in about any tips that in terms of the application. So I put the link in the chat. As I said, it's an internal process. There's a faculty committee with, I think it'll be 2 faculty. I don't know if he joined us, if Marco's here.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. I'll turn to you in just a sec.
Sure.
So Marco's our faculty lead, who has been doing this for a number of years for us. We're very grateful. He's in the Marxe faculty. But the application is a personal statement, your resume, unofficial transcript from Baruch. We've changed it recently to not be traditional letters of recommendation to make it easier on everybody. So there are 2 recommenders, but they fill out a form. So, but one has to be from a faculty member, and the other one could be a faculty member, or it could be a supervisor or someone like that. That's your choice. In my experience, most people do 2 faculty, but not 100%. The application's due, I think, 2 weeks. Yes, I think it's January 27th. You apply on Marxe Career Connect. That's how we're doing it now. Oh, thanks, Kwame. Thanks for being here. I think Tanisha might have to.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So you apply on Marxe Career Connect, you upload your documents. Your documents have to be approved by my office first. So don't expect to be able to apply immediately. It may take us a day to just approve them. And then you go back into that page and click them and upload them, and then you're pretty much done. And then there's an interview. And let me turn it over to Marco now to talk about, and I think, Marco, if you could weigh in on the personal statements, because that's something I don't like to, I feel like you're better at explaining what you're looking for that.
Sure.
And anything about the interview process you want to say. Thanks.
Sure. No problem. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for the great information so far. So a little bit about the and good to see, by the way, good to see you all who I haven't seen in a while, and so glad that you're doing great. So what we're trying to achieve with this, I and my the other 2 committee members, what we're looking for is it's a well-rounded applicant who this really, to be honest, this can apply to anything, any program, any job you apply for. What we're looking for is someone who wants this fellowship, not a fellowship, not a, who wants to work, oh, I really like this and I want to work in politics with the city. No, someone who understands what this fellowship is and who is thoughtful about this fellowship and about and intentional with what you're applying for, right? And believe me, I've applied for plenty of jobs in my life. I understand that you're probably interested in lots of things and applying to lots of things, but it's important to see this as its own thing, its own application. And so what you shouldn't do is reuse essays or something along those lines. And again, this really should apply to every job and every program. We're looking for students who can envision and can communicate what they hope to achieve by if they were fortunate enough to get this this fellowship. So it's understanding of the state, understanding of how this might fit into your short-term or even long-term career, why this fellowship, and why you, right? So as I often say, I say why you for them and why them for you, right? So what you bring to the table and what you could bring to the fellowship, to the department, and the state overall. So that's really what we're looking for. There is no one type of personal statement. We get asked that a lot. What are you looking for? What do you want? What do you look for? And it's easy, or not easy, but it's doable in the fact that it's you get to do it. You get to kind of think about it and fit it within that space and kind of create that narrative. It's difficult in the sense that it's a blank page, right? So you have to do that. And the good thing is that there are really no two personal statements alike, because it's a personal statement. It's a statement about you, about your personal past and your hopeful future. So the most important thing I would say is just to be thoughtful and intentional about when you're doing both the resume and the personal statement about this fellowship. So understanding what it is, understanding that it's a state program, not a city or a federal program, and something like that. So what we do is we read all of the applications, and we individually score them, and then we discuss them as a committee, as a trio. And I can't say that there's one. I can absolutely say that there is not one type of applicant we're looking for. We're looking for the best applicants in that year, who we think want it, who we think can excel in it and succeed in it, and who we believe will do the most with it. And so that's really, I think, that all of these are kind of vague things, but because this is such an individualized and personal application. So.
Yeah, and the interviews, I just want to say, is like, we usually, it's like a Friday in February, right? And then they're like no more than 15 to 20 minutes per person, so they're pretty brief. And
yeah, the interviews like sorry, Suzanne.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The interviews are kind of like the application in that we do a lot with a little. The application is right at your resume. Unless you've had years and years, it probably should be one page, or at least not too ridiculously long. The statement is, I think we're at 750 words, right? That's pretty short. So what we're doing here is we're trying to do, and we actually have for years. We do a lot with a little bit. So even though these interviews are relatively short themselves, 15, 20 minutes, because of the question, because we already have your material, and we've discussed you and your application, and we have we've been doing this all three of the committee members have been doing this for a number of years. And we, the questions we ask and kind of try to, what we try to get to and tease out of you based on your application, and also what you say in those interviews, it gives us it's a lot. We get out of it from a little time. So it's 15 minutes. There are well, now and last year and this year, and they're on Zoom, and so it's with the three committee members, 2 faculty, and an alum.
Great. Current or past fellows, did you want to say anything about the application or interviewing? Because I know, once we choose our nominees, you do have to meet with Kara Pangburn, who has the ultimate final say and then does the placements. Any comments or advice about that?
Can I, I'm sorry, before anybody else goes, I'm sorry, Suzanne, and I'm sorry, just 1 second. One thing I want to say about this is that don't think that this isn't for you. That's what I would say. If you take the application process seriously and are thoughtful and intentional about this fellowship, and you give it the time and the attention it deserves, don't think that, oh, I can't get this, oh, this is not for me. I think the best part of our going back years for all of our fellows is their diverse backgrounds and what they bring to the table and what they bring to their agencies. So if you want to do this, and if you like it, and if you can see it fit into your career journey, don't talk yourself out of it. And you can hear from a lot of the fellows, if you've probably heard from some of them already, about their backgrounds. And you don't have to be an expert in government. So don't be scared off by it if you were, and don't worry about a certain type of person or anything like that. Okay, that's it.
Great. Robert, you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to say, so speaking of Marco, I knew nothing of government when I applied, and I could argue I'm still learning a lot every day, especially in my newer position. So yeah, don't be scared of that. I would say, I know, so if you do meet with Kara, if you do get to that stage, it's yours to lose at that point. And I think Kara would say, the easiest way to lose that is to come in and say, well, I only want to work for this agency, right? I like Ben and I, we love clean energy. I only want to work for NYSERDA. I'm not doing this fellowship if you don't assign me to NYSERDA. Or I want to work for the chamber. I want to be like the West Wing. I want to be in the chamber. That's what I want. Marco want to hear, Kara want to hear what your preferences are. But Kara would stress that, she's limited because not every agency has positions for fellows. Every year there are different openings, and she has this very, very complicated jigsaw puzzle where she gets, 60 amazing, talented people that she has to find 60 positions for. And sometimes you get exactly what you want, and sometimes you're like, why would she assign me to this job in this agency? And I can tell you from conversations with Kara, there's always a reason behind it. Sometimes it may not be the place you want to be, but it's the skill set that she thinks, is good for you. And so I would say, whatever you get assigned, just embrace it. And yeah, maybe it's not where you want to be after 2 years, right? Maybe okay, I'm going to put in my 2 years, and then I'm going to try to get hired by this other agency. And that's fine, as long as you, commit to the work and you do the best job you can. Again, as a fellow, you have this opportunity to reach out to people within your agency, within other agencies, and say, hey, I'm an Excelsior Service Fellow, and I really want to learn more about blank. And you'll get that opportunity, and you'll get to meet a mentor. And so you'll have all these amazing opportunities to network and just grow your skill set. Just start, from day one, how can I build my resume? How can I acquire these skills? So 2 years from now, when I'm applying for a job, I'm in the best position. If you really commit to that, this fellowship will give you that opportunity to be in a great place 2 years from now. I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Any other fellows, or we can also open it up to questions too. What questions do you have that you're wondering about? It could be about anything, application.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm currently in the process of organizing my references, and I have a faculty reference. But in terms of the professional references, because my professional reference is because I guess my story is I want to move from kind of the nonprofit world to doing more government politics stuff. But because that is a person who I guess works in the nonprofit world, would that really have like a negative impact if it's not necessarily to do with politics, this professional reference, or government agency regulatory stuff? And
I would say, yeah, most people doing the fellowship to begin with don't have experience in government yet, or certainly they don't have state government experience. So I wouldn't worry about your recommender not having government experience. As I said before, a lot of people do use 2 faculty members. So you just got to think through like who's going to be stronger for you. Yeah. So, but if your supervisor can speak to your skills, your work ethic, your other qualities, and also I think it is helpful if you have a conversation with them about this fellowship and why you want it, because they can incorporate that into their comments. So again, it's not a traditional letter anymore, but there is going to be ample space for them to comment, and you want them to be able to talk. I think if they're not, you want them to know kind of that you're applying for this and why. With that will help them write a better letter. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we did, for the most part, the fellowship staff take our nominees. I did have someone a couple of years ago who did not interview well, and so I'm a little more mindful of that. We did do a mock interview with that person, but they still were not strong. And then they also, we were told that their areas of background didn't match where there was a need. So, but I would mostly that's not the case, but I guess you should all be mindful, like it's not 100% guarantee when we move you over to the fellowship folks that they will accept you, but we try to do our best to make sure you're well prepared. Right, the other faculty member is Jocelyn Jocelyn. That's who the other faculty member is. I don't know if any of you have her. Any other questions? I was gonna say there is another fellowship information session right after this one, but I'm also hosting one. We've never really done much with this one, but this is the first year that we're going to be hosting it's the Center for Budget, Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. It's kind of like a National State Policy Fellowship. Like I said, their info session is right after this one, or we're doing one February 1st. So in my mind, those of you who are graduating or graduated, you can apply for things, because until you figure out what, until you get an offer in hand, like you might as well throw your hat in the ring. What will also become available is the New York State Senate has some fellowships. They're not as in-depth as Excelsior. They're 9 months. That one, if you don't get Excelsior, but you were really excited about it, you could apply for that one in March, I think, or March or April. We'll probably do an info session about that. That's the New York State Senate. So just, this is that period of time for some of you in the graduation period where there's some things out there. But Excelsior, like I said before, the only one we do an internal Baruch process. We have such a great community of alumni in Albany and, past fellows back in New York City like Robert. who want to support you, and you've become a part of that whole alumni community of Excelsior Fellows. So that's why we do this dedicated info session with our alumni. Make sure you really understand this opportunity and know that you cannot apply for it next year, right? Like you're just the May 2022, December 2021, September 2021 grads are eligible. Next year, you wouldn't be eligible. I know maybe some of you are planning ahead for next year, which is always great. Trying to think if there's anything else we left out. Anything else for our alums or Marco that we didn't cover? So Robert's put his contact info. Kwame has his in the chat. You could save the chat in there. I'll try to put these things in a follow-up email for everybody. Emerson's offering to link in, or you can ask some questions on there. So lots of resources available in order to help you make this decision, or ask questions about the application. I will say I do not review or comment on personal statements unless you have a glaring typo. I will probably point that out when you upload to our system. I could help with resumes, or Samantha Bruno's here. We both would do that. But in terms of the personal statement, I don't want to get too involved with weighing in on those. But I don't want to leave, for some of you who haven't had your resumes looked at by us in a while or recently, that is a place we can be helpful.
What I will say, can I say one more thing, Sam?
Yeah.
It is to treat these personally. So I would actually treat the entire thing with the giving it the time and the attention and putting the effort that it deserves. I wouldn't wait until the last minute for this. Just really like any assignment. This is, I guess, the faculty member in me. But I would take a shot at the personal statement. Ask someone to read it, or more than someone, maybe some twos or some threes, to give it a read. Just have another set of eyes on it. So give yourself some time for that. Also give the faculty members some time. We understand that you don't get to see the recommendation letters, and by faculty members I mean faculty members or supervisors or whoever writes this. The best recommendation letters are from those that can speak to your strengths, right? So it's not who, the best person. We don't care as much about the person who's writing it as we do about what it says about you. And we realize that you don't get to see these, and that you can't force someone to write a great recommendation letter, but sort of using your judgment and asking someone who knows you, who can speak to your strengths, using making sure kind of it syncs with your transcript and your resume and your personal statement. All those things work in concert to kind of put your best you forward, and those things take time. So if you are interested in this, right, I don't think we're charging anybody for the application process. So start now. It's free. I would start now. I'd start thinking about it, and maybe reaching out to people even if you don't eventually go through with it.
All right. So I think we're good. We're going to wrap up a couple minutes early. Feel free to email me with any questions directly. And then the alumni have made themselves available as well. And we hope that as many of you as possible who are interested will apply and go through the process. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care and be well.
Bye. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.